Hey everyone, what's up? This is Simon from DevTactic. Today I will show you how to create an easy front end with AngularJS for user authentication inside an Ionic app. And this video is the second part of a series. So if you haven't watched the first video, make sure to check it out. I will print the link inside the box below this video. So grab that little backend with Node.js and MongoDB. So you got this little server up and running. This is for signing up new users, for login, authentication, and all that stuff using REST API. Alright, and for this video I already started a new blank Ionic app like this. And I also added some files. So I added a constants.js, a controllers, a services.js, and also a templates folder with 4 templates. So if you want the complete structure, also check out the blog post. There's also a little image of this. And I also started with some coding. So I added all of those 3 JavaScript files inside our index. And I also changed the body of our index to be an ng app, which is standard, and I also assigned a controller, which is a controller all around our app. And inside we only have a UI view, so all of our views will be rendered inside here. Alright, let's close this. As I said, I already created a constants.js. This is to have defined events. So an auth event in case the user is not authenticated, so we can easily broadcast this event. I also added a constant for the API endpoint, and this is interesting because it's pointing to 8100, but in fact our backend is running on port 8080. So why not 8080? Because we will get coarse issues inside an Ionic app when we serve this and try to access port 8080, because Ionic is running on this port. So therefore add this URL and also open the Ionic project file inside your project and add this little proxy snippet. So whenever we call an HTTP request with API, our proxy will route to 8080 API, and this helps to contact our local REST API. You can check it out on my blog, you will find all the stuff there again. Alright, so those are the constants, and I already explained our index. Let's see inside the controllers. We have 4 little controllers. We have a login controller handling the login. We have a register controller for the registration. We have an inside controller, which is in fact the member area or the inside area inside our app. And we got this app controller I already assigned to the complete app surrounding everything. Okay, inside the services we got an auth service, and this will be very much like in one of my tutorials before. So if you've seen the Angular auth tutorial, you will know a lot of this code. Also the auth interceptor for catching some HTTP requests. We will see what comes in here later. And finally, we push our auth interceptor to the HTTP provider, which means the auth interceptor starts to work once we have pushed him, and he will recognize all those events. Alright, so our app.js is clean, and first of all let's start with some views. So as I said, the index only shows something inside here, and our outside view is ion nav. Alright, I need the bar. Alright, so this is the first time I wanted to use this and now it's not working perfect. So So outside we want to have a bar, because when we navigate to the register we want to have a back button, and this will make life a lot easier. Interesting, I have everything inside but not this. But we have enough back button, and we will make it a clear button with an iron left. Yes, just like this. We can remove the back, so we just have this little back arrow. Alright, so this is our navbar, and inside we have, okay, so navbar view is, okay, whatever. So below the navbar we have the nav view, slide left right, and the content will be rendered inside here. We can also start already with a little bit of code for routing. So in your app.js, put in a config, so the state provider and also the URL router provider, and state provider dot state. So we define the states for our app, and as I said, the outside state is what we see when we open the app. So the URL is, well, /outside. This is an abstract state because all of our children will be rendered in this, or all of the outside children. And the URL is templates /outside .html. Okay. The next state will be outside.login. So this means this is a child state of the outside state, and this login state will have, again, I'm lazy. So this will have the URL login. It's obviously not abstract, and it will use the login HTML, and it will also have a controller, which is our login controller. Alright, yes, that's the problem. And also we can define what happens if nothing is matching. So put in otherwise, and this will be /outside/login. So if no root is matching, we go back to login just in case. Alright, our outside, as I said, is the base for the login and the register view. So let's go to our login view. Inside the login view we will have an Ion view. Thanks. Title is please sign in, and we got some content. Let's put in a bit of padding as class, and we want to have a cool login interface. So again, let's apply some list styling and some labels. And inside the label we have our input type text. First of all, the placeholder is name, and we will assign this value to user.name inside our controller later on. Okay, we need a second one, but this one is type password. Well, you won't see the placeholder, but anyway, you will see some stars at this point. Alright, so those are our two labels, and below we have a button, which is a button full. This looks pretty cool, and let's make it green because this is our login button saying login. And right below the login button, we want to have a second button, but this time it's a button clear, button positive, yes, button full as well. And this will be a UI sref to the state we will create very soon, which is the register state. And let's say register now on the button. So this uses the states we defined, and this will bring us to the register state. Alright, I think we can already serve this. Let's give it a try. Yes, and there it is. So our login view is rendered inside this outside basic nav view, and we will have this register, login, and our input field with some padding. Perfect, just like we wanted to have it. Okay, we can also make it a bit shorter. Yes, like this, and code next to it. This looks fancy. I love it when people do this in their videos, so I will do it as well. Alright, the register view is a lot like the login view, so let's first of all copy this and say create a new account, which is the title up here. Again, we have a username and a password, but this time we only have one button. Yes, it can stay like this, but the action will be sign up, and it says sign up. Okay, so right now this is not yet connected inside our states, so let's jump to our app.js and craft another state, which is register, and obviously a different URL, a different template, and a different controller. So let's see. Create a new account with all our fields, sign up, and a back button taking us back to the login. So this is exactly what we wanted to have right now. Before we jump into the code, let's finish up with our inside HTML. So this will be an Ion view. Again, I love this. So this will not be inside our outside HTML. This will be, as you can say, right inside the UI view, because it won't have a parent state. But this is no problem. We still want an Ion header bar, and so this one will be member area, which is just like the title in our other views, and the button will be a button clear with an ng click event for logout, and it should also say logout. Alright, this is the header bar inside our member. We currently can't access that because we have not defined the state, but yeah, hold on, we will come to this soon. Alright, so we will also have content with some padding, and inside this content we first of all want to have a little card to display some information. And this information will come from our controller or come from our backend later on, but right now it's empty. And we will also have two buttons, so a button full, an assertive button, because this will destroy the session. and this is to demonstrate how our app is really working. I will show you what this performs later on. So we have a second button, this time again balanced. Everything's cool with this one, and this will get our member info. If you've seen the first video or read the first article, you know that this will grab a string from the backend with a little greeting and the username, but we can only get this if we have an auth token set on our request. So this will only work if we are logged in or if we have the JSON Web Token inside our app. Alright, that's the complete inside view. Maybe we will come back to that later. First of all, let's define this last state, which is not a child state, but only inside. And this is inside HTML, and also inside controller. Alright, perfect. Now the fun begins even more. So we need a service which will perform some actions with our backend, and I already have the code, so let me just check it out. Alright, so this is a lot of code, and this is much like in a previous tutorial, so I will paste it for now and let's go through it. So this is our auth service. It returns a login function, a register function, a logout, and is authenticated, which returns just the variable is authenticated. Alright, so on login we return a promise, and let's make this big again. We connect to the API endpoint.url, which is this one. So it's /API/authenticate, and it passes the user object, and if we get a success from our backend, we're successful logged in, and our backend returns a token inside this data object, which is the JSON Web Token. So we store the credentials and resolve the promise, otherwise we reject the promise with the message we got from the backend. So our store user credentials method only sets this item to our local storage using this key, so you can put whatever you want inside there, and also uses our credentials. And how to close this again? Yes. Use credentials says, okay, the user is now authenticated, and the auth token is the token we just got. And the most important part is we set this auth token as default headers.common authorization. So this might change in your case if you have a different backend. This might be xauth token or whatever string. For my little Node.js backend, this is exactly what the Node backend expects. So very important line. Let's go through the other methods. Destroy user credentials. Well, sets everything to undefined false, removes the keys, sets this key back, and register, just like login, contacts the API/sign up with our user object, and again, if we have a success, we resolve it, otherwise we reject it. Alright, logout function calls this, and one more special thing we're not using right now, but this is copied from the first tutorial. When the service loads, it also calls load user credentials, and what load user credentials does is looking for a stored token inside our local storage, and if we got this token, we call again use credentials, just like in the other cases. So on startup of your app or whatever, you could check if the user is already authenticated and just pass the login. So the user does not have to log in every time again, but check out my other tutorials on how to use this. For now, we will just leave it like it is. I hope this was not too fast, and you can check out the code also on my blog or download it directly from there. But this is very straightforward, or well, not very straightforward, but it's just like before. There's nothing really new, only that we now contact a real API instead of a dummy backend. So let's take a look at our auth interceptor. Again, this is also just like before, and this one will have a little function response error. So inside here we say root scope broadcast, and we broadcast on 401 auth events dot not authenticated, right? Yes, that's the only thing we need, and we need to check the status of the current response. So this might be a bit cryptical. I will explain what it does in a second after finishing this line. Oh, sorry. Okay, is there... Yes, this might be too much. Alright, so what does this auth interceptor? Whenever we make an HTTP request, we will get some response from the server, including a status. And if this is like 401, we obviously are not authenticated to access that resource, which means, well, the user is not logged in. And in this case, we broadcast this event, so our app controller or whoever is registered on this event will catch it and handle it. This is important because we don't want to have UI logic inside a factory or service. So we just want to say, hey, there's a problem, user is not authenticated, please handle it. And the way we do it is inside our app controller, which is, as you know, assigned to our body. Yes, go back to it and put in scope.on auth events not authenticated, a function. This should be event. And what we do is we call please log out the user. Although the session might be over, the credentials are invalid, whatever, still call logout just to be safe. And we also say state.go back to login, user is not authenticated, he needs to log in again. And we also don't want to do it without informing the user, so put in a little alert and say title session lost, and also a template, sorry, you have to log in again. Alright, so this is the app controller to catch the not authenticated event. Before we come to our other controllers, let's put in one more security feature. So go to your app.js and put in a run config. And this will also need the root scope, the state, the auth service, and our auth events. And inside this block, we want to check for another event which is called state change start. I also have this in my other tutorial, and this is to catch whenever the state changes. So if you navigate to any point, or especially if you change the URL inside or from wherever you might be able to change it. So then this event will get triggered. And at this point, we have to check if our current user is authenticated. Because if he's not authenticated, he is not allowed to access some resources. And the only thing, or the only time he is allowed, is when the name of the next route is outside.login, or so I set this all in the complete opposite, but I will tell you why in a second. So if the user is not authenticated and he wants to go to login, we should not prevent this event. Or if he wants to go to register. I'm not sure if this might be an or. So if the next name is login, no, this is fine. So if only one of those would be true, we will have a problem. So whenever one of those things is true, we don't want this to happen. And this means when the user is not authenticated and tries to access inside or anything else than those two things, he will be not allowed and he will be sent back to the login page. And this is exactly how AngularJS handles authentication, or how you should handle that authentication. This is very important. You have to make your backend sure as well, but this is the best you can do to secure your front end. Alright, we can close our app.js, no more changes there. The constants also, yes. Alright, so now we only got our few methods. So first of all, we need to have a user object on our scope because we called ngModel user.name and password. So give this user a name and also a password. And on login, we don't have to do very much because our auth service will do everything we need. And again, this is the best practice. The logic for handling stuff should be in the services. The controller is just, well, the middleware between our login view and the service. So, okay, if the login is successful, we are very happy and can send the user, oh interesting, what is this? Well, we can send the user right to the inside page. And if for some reason there's an error, we got the message from our backend and we copy the little alert pop-up, and this will say login failed, and we can just use the error message for the user in this case. Alright, so this is everything we have to do for our login. And alright, we should use scope.user obviously. And let's copy this because the sign up is more or less just the same, but we call register with scope user. The register obviously also need a user object, and okay, register fail with error message, but on success we want to guide the user back to the login page. And what we also want to do is let's promote a success to him so he knows what's happening. He's not only guided back. As you can see, the controllers are really short. All of our logic is inside the services, and this is just like we want it to have. Now if the user is for some reasons inside and we have this little get info route, we make an HTTP request. I'm not putting this right now into our services because this is a very cool class and boilerplate you could use, so I don't want to put any of this dummy demo logic inside that one. But obviously you should have some service for this, like server manager, which handles all of your requests or something like that in place. Remember the inside template? We had this member info inside the card, and now is the time we set it to result data message. Okay. We don't have to take care if this request is successful or not, because if it's not successful, it will be broadcasted an event with not authenticated. So finally, on logout, we just need to call our service logout, and we are very kind because we take the user back to outside the login if we don't want to stay inside our app. So now I only have this destroy session on which we will call logout to see what will happen. And I think we are finished right now. So let's see. I open the console because who knows. So let's see. Let's don't pass anything. Alright, user not found. That's totally true. So let's register Simon. Oh, no autofill. And let's say the password is test. Okay, successful created user, and we're back on the login page. Now let's see. Simon. No autofill, come on. Test. No, I don't want the password saved. So we're inside the member area because our login was successful. We got the logout button, we got an empty card, the destroy and get member info. Let's give it a try. And this is coming straight from our backend. As you can see, this was the request. I can do it again and again. There it is. So here we have it. And let's see. We destroy our token. Nothing happens right now. But if we want to get the member info now, we do not have a valid token anymore. And this is exactly what happens. We get a 401 from the backend, and we get the broadcasted event, this session is lost, which we have defined right inside, yes, session lost right there. As you can see, we got a beautiful login with register page and back button. We can log in, be inside the member area. You could obviously craft many more views inside and make sure they're all inside. You could make an abstract inside state. And well, yeah, that's in general how user authentication with AngularJS and the Node.js backend works. So I hope you like this little series. I would love to hear your feedback about it, or if you want to see anything more about those login stuff, And I would be really happy if you subscribe to my channel right now to follow on more great tutorials like this. And also make sure to check out my Ionic or Devtactic courses on courses.devtactic.com. The link will be below this video. Stay tuned, happy coding, and see you next time.